What is up, tennis world? We have a massive breaking story unfolding right now. I am absolutely buzzing to share the latest explosive drama straight from the sun-soaked courts of tennis paradise, because the 2026 BNP Paribas Open at Indian Wells just dropped a bombshell that is shaking up the entire Women's Tennis Association. Forget the California heat. The real fire was blazing off the slow hard courts this afternoon. We are talking about a round of 64 showdown that had fans, commentators, and legends alike literally clinging to the edge of their seats. This wasn't your typical early round warm-up. This match skipped straight to Grand Slam final levels of intensity, something you rarely see this soon in a 1,000-level tournament. I am referring, of course, to the sensational Filipino phenomenon, Alexandra Eala, locking horns with the ferocious, heavy-hitting veteran from Ukraine, Diana Yastremska. The whole tour is reeling. Crowds are going berserk. And honestly, the entire script for this year's Sunshine Double has just been torn to shreds. But hold on. Before we dissect the tactical warfare and shot-making that made this battle so captivating, we need to pause and appreciate the sheer magnitude of this moment. To really get why the global tennis community is obsessed with this clash, you have to look at the incredible roads these two warriors traveled to get here. Let's rewind the clock and look at the insane 12-month glow-up of Alexandra Eala. Just 365 days ago, this young prodigy was ranked outside the top 140, fighting through the mud of the ITF circuit and W75 events, desperate to find her rhythm and bridge the massive gap between junior glory and the brutal grind of the main professional tour. And then, the switch flipped. In the last 52 weeks, Alex Eala went from being the sport's best-kept secret to a bona fide global headline act. She tore up the rankings, highlighted by that historic fairy tale run to the Miami Open semifinals as a wildcard, crushing Grand Slam giants like Iga Swiatek and Madison Keys, all while snagging her first 125 title in Guadalajara. She stormed into her first main tour final on the Eastbourne grass, cracked the top 100, then the top 50, and touched down in the Coachella Valley, sporting a shiny new career-high ranking of world number 31. That number is historic. She is the pride and joy of the Philippines, the highest-ranked player her country has ever produced, and she brings a legion of supporters so electric and passionate, they turn every foreign stadium she steps into a deafening home-court fortress. Fresh off a stunning quarterfinal appearance in Dubai where she ousted elite talents like Jasmine Paolini before bowing out to Coco Gauff, Eala walked into Indian Wells with a number next to her name for the first time at this level. That seeding gifted her a precious first-round bye, setting up this highly hyped, microscopic examination of a round of 64 debut. And waiting to spoil the party across the net was none other than Ukraine's Diana Yastremska. Listen, if you have been watching the tour lately, you know Diana is dangerous. We are talking about a former world number 21, a three-time champion, and a slugger capable of unleashing some of the most violent, court-shaking offense on the planet. Who could forget her magical, tear-jerking run to the semifinals of the 2024 Australian Open as a qualifier? She proved then that when her radar is locked in, her explosive baseline power can blast absolutely anyone off the court. Yastremska has been through the ringer personally and professionally, but she remains arguably the scariest unseeded landmine in any bracket. Arriving ranked 52nd in the world, she had just knocked out the crafty veteran Zhang Shuai in the opener, getting her eye in and adjusting to the notoriously gritty, high-bouncing surface of the Indian Wells tennis garden. So, you have the irresistible force of Yastremska's sledgehammer power colliding with the immovable object of Eala's rapidly maturing, incredibly high IQ all-court hustle. The stakes? Sky high. For Eala, this was about proving her spot in the top 32 wasn't a fluke, but her new normal. It was a test of whether she could handle the crushing weight of expectations, the hopes of a nation, and the pressure of playing with a target painted on her back. For Yastremska, this was a golden shot to claim a big-name scalp, remind the next generation of the pecking order, and carve a lane through a tricky part of the draw. And let's talk about that bracket for a second, because the context surrounding this fight makes it even more spicy. Looming like a storm cloud over this brutal slugfest is the prize awaiting the victor, a showdown with the American icon, the fourth-ranked titan and hometown hero herself, Coco Gauff. The storylines here are writing themselves. If Eala pushes through, we are staring down the barrel of a massive, blockbuster sequel to their recent clash in Dubai. The weight of expectation, the sheer noise, and the media circus circling this part of the draw has reached a boiling point. From the second they stepped onto the court, the energy at Indian Wells was live-wire dangerous. Legions of Filipino supporters, flags waving and voices thundering, jammed the stadium to bursting, generating a vibe less like a second-round fixture and more like a feverish World Cup championship. Yastremska stood icy and locked in, prepared to hush the roaring masses and force her dominant style on the game. You could practically taste the anxiety in the desert heat. This was not merely a contest. It was a declaration of war between two distinct eras of WTA prowess, fighting for their lives at one of the globe's premier events. Let us shift gears and dissect exactly how this fierce rivalry plays out between the lines, examining the strategic subtleties, defining this battle, and what the bigger picture looks like for both athletes in this punishing 2026 campaign. Viewing the head-to-head of Alexandra Eala versus Diana Yastremska is effectively studying a striking clash of philosophies in court geometry. To grasp why the tennis world is fixated on this meeting, we must unpack the unique variables of the Indian Wells venue. The BNP Paribas Open is legendary specifically for the behavior of the ground beneath their feet. These plexipave hardcourts are notoriously abrasive, stripping significant speed from the ball and forcing it to kick up wildly high, particularly when the midday sun beats down. While the arid air lets the ball soar, the moment it kisses the concrete, the surface bites and drags. This dynamic tilts the odds heavily toward tacticians who build points with surgical precision, generate their own velocity, and wield massive topspin to pin their rivals deep in the backcourt. For Eala, the lefty from Quezon City honed at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Spain, this arena is practically a masterpiece canvas waiting for her art. Her trademark weapon, that heavy, wicked looping forehand, is engineered perfectly for this gritty California floor. She leverages that spin to drag right-handed foes off the court, exposing the ad side and carving out impossible angles. In the past 12 months, Eala has injected serious venom and depth into her striking. She is not just surviving rallies anymore, she is commanding them. During her lead-up to this championship, sparring with seasoned pros like Laura Siegemund and up-and-comers like Solana Sierra, Eala was visibly sharpening her spatial awareness. Siegemund, a master of tennis intellect and double strategy, surely passed on secrets regarding these sluggish hardcourts, stressing the need to close the gap and kill points at the net whenever the door cracks open. We watched Eala execute this flawlessly. Her talent for soaking up power and firing it back down the line is fast becoming a nightmare for the women's tour. Across the net, Diana Yastremska poses a radically different strategic threat. Yastremska executes a style defined by hyper-aggressive, first-strike violence. She aims to flatten every shot, taking the ball perilously early to steal time away from her adversary. Her double-handed backhand is a devastating missile when she finds her footing, and her return game is built to instantly shatter the server's defense. Yet, the dragging surface of Indian Wells can often be the undoing of a flat hitter like the Ukrainian. If she fails to punch clean through the court, the friction breaks the ball just enough for a nimble mover like Eala to chase it down and neutralize the point. The mental battle here is immense. Eala entered this fray holding the psychological high ground, fresh off a straight-sets demolition of Yastremska in their only prior meeting during the Eastbourne quarterfinals in June of 2025. Grass, naturally, is a completely different beast compared to the sticky hard courts of the West Coast. The lawn game usually aids the flat striker, yet Eala managed to stifle Yastremska's firepower there, cruising to a 6-1, 6-2 win. Knowing she wrecked the Ukrainian on a fast track fueled the 20-year-old Filipina, as she walked onto a court that actually suits her style infinitely better. Make no mistake, Yastremska is a fighter. You do not make the Australian Open Final Four without a champion's heart and iron resilience. She understood that to topple Eala, she had to break the tempo. She simply could not let Eala run the show with that cross-court lefty forehand. The strategic mandate for Yastremska was to assault Eala's backhand side early and relentlessly. She steps well inside the paint on second serves, using feather-light drop shots to punish Eala for hanging back near the fence. When Yastremska finds that groove, she looks like a cheat code. She rips clean winners from desperate spots where anyone else would just be praying to keep the rally alive. However, the secret sauce behind Eala's rocket ride into the top 30 isn't flash. It is her newfound mental steel and her ability to chase down everything. Think back to the Dubai showdown just last month, where she shocked the 8th-ranked Jasmine Paolini. Eala displayed a masterclass in survival. Even when her rival goes nuclear and blasts 3 straight winners, Eala doesn't flinch. She takes a breath, leans on her conditioning, and forces the other girl to hit just one more shot. When you are facing a gambler like Yastremska, demanding that extra stroke is usually the tipping point between a brilliant winner and a disastrous mistake. Her court coverage has leveled up in a terrifying way. She glides into that open stance backhand like she was born on the red clay of Paris, soaking up Yastremska's firepower and sending back skyscraping lobs that drag the rally back to square one. And you cannot ignore the noise. The crowd has effectively become the third player in every Eala match on tour. The global Filipino community brings an intensity unmatched in the sport. Against Coco Gauff in Dubai, the stands were a sea of flags, erupting into chaos every time she claimed a point. Gauff herself even admitted to the voltage in the air, mentioning how brutal it is to fight someone who has thousands of people willing the ball over the net for them. Now, at Indian Wells, famous for its colossal crowds and desert vibes, the electricity is just as palpable. People were swarming practice courts 6 days ago just to catch a glimpse of her warm-up drills. When she finally walked out for this round of 64 showdown, the atmosphere was absolute bedlam. For a kid of 20, that kind of worship can be suffocating, a heavy burden to carry. Yet Eala treats it like high-octane fuel. She harnesses that noise, letting the cheers move her feet when fatigue starts setting in during the marathons. For Yastremska, battling an elite athlete while drowning out a hostile stadium demands a mental focus that drains the tank fast. This entire battle was a textbook example of clashing philosophies and raw determination. It showcased precisely why the women's game is currently sitting in a golden age. You have got the titans, the comeback queens, and a fresh wave of rookies who could not care less about the legends standing opposite them. Eala symbolizes a seismic shift, not merely for her career, but for the entire landscape of Southeast Asian tennis. As she noted, seeing talent rise from Thailand and Indonesia right alongside her proves the region is becoming a powerhouse. Eala is the tip of that spear, demonstrating that elite champions can rise from any corner of the globe given the skill, the support system, and the obsession with hard work. The stakes of this Indian Wells duel go way deeper than a paycheck or ladder positioning. The victor earns a golden ticket to the main stage to stare down the American Grand Slam queen, Coco Gauff. A third-round collision between Eala and Gauff is the blockbuster script every organizer and network executive is praying for. It is the literal embodiment of tennis's future. Two charismatic, insanely skilled, and ruthless young women going to war in paradise. But to reach that summit, one had to walk through the fire of the round of 64 first. Yastremska was out to prove that brute force still rules the world. Eala was determined to show that her spot in the top 31 is just a brief layover before she cracks the top 10. The mental warfare, the sonic booms off the racket, the wild shifts in control, this fight had every ingredient that makes us addicted to this game. As we close the book on this deep analysis of one of the 2026 season's most electrifying upsets, you have to pause and appreciate where the sport stands. The war between Alexandra Eala and Diana Yastremska at the BNP Paribas Open is the perfect snapshot of why we tune in. It delivered the unfiltered, violent horsepower of a battle-tested Ukrainian veteran crashing against the strategic genius, fluid speed, and stubborn refusal to miss from the Philippines' brightest star. No matter how the chips fall in the California desert this week, the verdict is already in. Alexandra Eala has officially arrived. She is not just a hopeful junior or a fortunate wildcard entry anymore, and she certainly is not a secret. She is a legitimate predator in WTA 1000 events, moving through the brackets with the swagger of a 10-year pro. The way she shoulders the crushing weight of her standing, the hysterical hopes of a global nation, and the brutal grind of the tour at only 20 years old is absolutely mind-bending. But eyes forward, because the road only gets steeper from this point on. The sluggish, punishing surface of the California desert demands absolute steel from every warrior hoping to survive the bracket. If destiny delivers that third-round clash with Coco Gauff, we are looking at a spectacle for the ages. Gauff, the American titan holding multiple slam trophies, is on a mission to mirror the dominance she unleashed in Dubai. However, never underestimate Eala. She is an evolutionary talent who transforms every loss into a lesson and returns lethal. Surviving battles at this altitude only sharpens her weapons, adding dangerous new layers to her game. Meanwhile, Diana Yastremska is proving she is nowhere near finished. With a cannon for an arm, she remains a lurking predator capable of blowing up the draw and stunning the favorites. Now, the mic is yours. What is your verdict on the strategic shifts that define today's showdown? Does Alexandra Eala possess the full package needed to eclipse superstars like Gauff and storm the top 10 by December? Or will the seasoned power hitters like Yastremska remind the new school that experience is king? Unleash your opinions, your tactical views, and your forecasts for the Indian Wells crown in the comments below. I read every word, and the debates in this community are legendary. If this intense analysis hit the spot for you, show some love and crush that like button to help us power the channel and deliver more elite content. Subscribe and ring that bell immediately so you catch every upset, every break, and every champion crowned in this electric 2026 season. We are going full throttle on the Sunshine Double, tracking the action from the Desert Finals straight into the heat of the Miami Open next week. Thank you for watching, for standing by this channel, and for living and breathing this beautiful game with us.